4 new gear sets have been added within the last few weeks. 2 of them are from Gear Raid 1 and 2 of them are from Gear Raid 2. We are still waiting on some additional ones from Gear Raid 3, but we'll go over that just now. Something I did not notice initially, but it is a lot clearer if you look at this view. These initial gear sets that you get dropping in the lower rank ones are now been recolored to blue. The ones that we were previously using, the current best tier or the previous best tier of gear, are now purple, and the latest ones are now like a goldy red. So this pretty much mimics the rarity system of rare, epic, and then legendary / myth. I thought this would probably make more sense being yellow, but I'm not sure, maybe there's more plans of that in future. But anyway, it's pretty clear this is just straight up a new tier of gear. This is just better, it's just a direct upgrade, so all of the gear we've been farming is going to become outdated quite soon. So before you become too worried about the prospect of having to refarm everything, bear in mind that gear sets, in my opinion, and in a lot of late game players' opinion, are really just the pinnacle of gearing your hero. The main focus is always going to be stats. We're not going to get into gearing and stats and stuff too much in this video, though I will be making gear cleansing and gear guide videos pretty soon, so stay tuned for those. What we are going to talk about is what these new sets mean and how the direction of the game is changing, because I believe it really is. But first, let's look at what the new sets actually are. So in Gear Raid 1, these are the 2 set pieces on the left side of your gearing screen for weapon and chest armor. There is the Epic Fighter set, granting 25% attack and 30 attack speed, and there is also the Epic Defender set, granting 25% HP and 10% defense. I'm sure you've noticed, but the Epic Fighter set is a direct upgrade of the Elite Mage set, which currently grants you 25% attack, whereas this one grants you an additional 30 attack speed. So it's not a crazy big gain, but it is noticeable, especially if you don't have any attack speed. The first 60 to 100 points of attack speed have really high gains. As for the Epic Defender set, this is a direct upgrade of the Elite Defender set, and it basically just grants you 10% defense on top. So again, not the craziest upgrade, but it's clearly a better set of gear, and it is definitely worth farming them, because as we've seen in the past, they do nudge the numbers around, so they could get buffed even further in the future. So that covers the Gear Raid 1 sets of gear. As for Gear Raid 2, these are the biggest ones in my opinion. I'm going to be farming for them like mad. The first new set in Gear Raid 2 is the Ancient Wrath set. Initial impressions are this is going to be incredibly powerful and probably one of the dominant sets to have in the game. A flat increase of 30% crit damage and an increase of 1% crit damage every time you make a crit, stacking up to 30 times. Bearing in mind, most heroes attack around once every 2 seconds, and most heroes are built with a 100% crit rate. Most characters will max this out within a minute of attacking enemies, and especially in Guild Boss, you can assume this will be maxed very quickly. So this is going to be a very dominant set, and even without the stacking benefit, 30% crit damage is very high. The current comparison would be the Fracture set, which grants you 45% crit damage, but on the condition that you are above 70% HP, which does genuinely reduce its usefulness a fair amount. The Ancient Wrath set will be better than that most of the time, especially in longer encounters such as Guild Boss and encounters where you're taking damage. Ancient Wrath is going to be vastly superior as a set. Second, and in my opinion most importantly, we have the Invigoration set, plus 25% healing effect, but when deployed, the hero and 1 random ally in range gain 10% attack. That is huge. That is a massive bonus. To be able to grant an additional ally 10% bonus attack is just a crazy bonus to have on a set. So I think the Invigoration set is probably going to be one of the most important sets. This is what I'll be chucking on my Dolores, because it also buffs her attack, so that should help with her ultimate. I'll be putting this on Hollow, on Eloin, on anyone I can pretty much. This is going to be a very, very viable set. I'll be interested to hear if it stacks, so I'll be doing some testing on that when I can. I think the potential is very high from this set, so at the moment there are no Gear Raid 3 sets, but the 2 that we have in Gear Raid 2 are not direct upgrades of the existing sets. They just genuinely seem to be much, much stronger sets, especially the support set for Invigoration. Honestly, I would even put Invigoration on defenders who don't even self-heal, just for the sake that they can now buff attack of allies. That's just so big. So then, you may be wondering, how do I get hold of these new sets? Well, if you check out the stage loot, if we go to stage 18, which is where most players are clearing, it's all the elite drops if you see. If you go to 19, it now includes the new epic drops. And this is the same through 19 all the way to 21. We can assume that it probably drops the epic ones at a higher rate. I've been farming stage 19 and I've had several fighter and defender drops today. I'm going to be moving on to farming Gear Raid 2 now that they've added these additional new sets. But again, you cannot farm these if you're farming at stage 18 or lower. In my opinion, this pretty much changes the structure of the meta of the game quite substantially. Currently, most players are focusing on Guild Boss. Guild Boss has been held in the air as the absolute pinnacle of late game. 20k blood on Nightmare 4 has been the goal of the vast majority of players. In my opinion, that isn't really the case anymore. The case is now, can you farm stages 19 to 21 in the gear raids? That is now the most important part of Watcher of Realms, as far as I'm concerned. That is the new end game. If you are unable to farm these stages in Gear Raid 2, then your gear farming is going to be significantly less efficient because these sets are just so much better, and in all likelihood they'll be adding more sets to this as well. This does mean that our gear is being creeped out of the game, but I am honestly not too upset by that. It gives us another goal to focus on. They're not nerfing our existing gear, there's just some more stuff coming in. So we can assume that there'll be more difficult content coming in that we'll need this for. I've been trying stage 21, but my characters just aren't tanky enough and don't deal enough damage, so this might help as well. I've already made videos showing how to clear stages 19 on both Gear Raid 1 and Gear Raid 2. They are incredibly legendary hero dependent, unfortunately. There isn't like a really easy, simple way of doing it. There's no surefire team that you can build and use. There are kind of just general premises that you can use and general heroes that are incredibly performant in these areas. But I would definitely suggest to you, if you are looking at pushing further into the end game, try your best to focus on improving your Gear Raid 1 and Gear Raid 2 teams with the goal of clearing stages 19 to 21. For Gear Raid 1, that means focusing on your mages as much as possible, and for Gear Raid 2, which I think is slightly more attainable than Gear Raid 1. Gear Raid 1 is basically just a straight out and out damage check. Do you have enough to kill them before they get healed? For Gear Raid 2, Isolde is going to help a hell of a lot. Baron is fantastic. Olag is fantastic. Regulus is fantastic. And then aside from that, you can use Vortex, Eloin, Gwendolyn, and ideally many other North faction members for their shielding. The shielding is going to be incredible. Brokir, the new Dwarf Defender, will also be incredibly useful in Gear Raid 2. And as for DPS, you can use several Nightmare faction members alongside an Awakened 1 Volker to reduce your respawn time. And using heroes with low respawn time can be very efficient for blocking boulders. I like to use mages to help delete these spawns very quickly. That seems to be a pretty dominant strategy that you see a lot of people using. So I would suggest using Vienna, Karma, Nocturne even. They're very good for helping clear out the ads fast. So those are some very quick suggestions on Gear Raid 2. I will consider looking into a more detailed guide on how to clear the later stages, but at the moment there just genuinely isn't an accessible team that you can use. The gearing requirement is incredibly high, and you also need some very, very powerful legendary heroes to get through it. My website, mybucket.com, features a DPS calculator, just something you can quickly throw numbers into to work out how much damage per second your heroes output. You can select your gear set on there as well, so I will be updating it to include the new set. Anyway, that is a pretty quick video. I just really wanted to discuss the fact that there are new gear sets. It is changing the current endgame goals of players. It's changing the meta a bit, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens with this going forward. It's becoming incredibly likely that we'll be seeing a Gear Raid 3 update soon, expanding these stages from 19 to 21, and it will very likely introduce 2 of these elite style sets of gear. With that, I would definitely suggest, if you're looking for things to work on or prepare for the future, prepare yourself for harder Gear Raid stages, prepare your core teams as much as you can, and get ready for the new content that comes out. If you have any thoughts or comments on the new gear updates, or any requests on what you would like me to cover or make content about regarding them, then please do let me know below. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Have a nice one, and bye-bye.